Esselamu Aleyküm ve Rahmetullah. Euzu billahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve hlul ukdeten min lisani yefkahu kavli ve cealli veziran min ehli Harun ahi iştür bihi ezri ve eşrikhu fi emri key nusebbihake kesira ve nezkurake kesira inneke kunte bina basira. Allahümme allimna ma yenfa'una ve enfa'na bima allamtena ve zidna ilma ve erinel hakka hakkan ve rzuqna ittiba'ah ve erinel batila batilan ve rzuqna ictinabe ve sallillahumma ala Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve ashabihi ve etba'ihi ve sellem. ربنا اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. Now microphone is for Emina.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good morning. Last weekend, we reviewed the 7th truth of the 10th word. Today, we'll look at the 8th truth, which is titled The Gate of Promise and Threat, Manifestation of the Names of Beautiful and Glorious. This section of the text continues many of the themes that we've been talking about the last few weeks. Introduces some new imagery and comparisons and analogies that I found really interesting. And also, I want this to be interactive. I prefer not to talk for a solid hour. I'm not much of a talker. So anybody at any time, please jump in and contribute your thoughts. And I'll pause regularly to make sure that you have space to do that.
Excuse me, Emmy, is there any way your connection breaks up? Is there a way to make it somehow better? If there is.
I'm not sure. I'm on our wireless. It's usually pretty stable. Am I simply not loud enough?
Okay, you can continue as you like.
Can you hear me okay?
Now, yes.
Okay, I'll try to speak a little bit louder. So the text begins, is it at all possible that the maker of this world, the possessor of absolute knowledge and absolute power, should not fulfill the oft-repeated promise and threat that has been proclaimed unanimously by all the prophets and been witnessed in unison by all the veracious and the saints, and thus display weakness and ignorance? God forbid. So here he's basically arguing with the all-powerful maker of this world, the creator, possessor of absolute knowledge and absolute power. Would he really fail to fulfill the prophecies and the promises and the threats that have been proclaimed so many times by so many prophets? To do so would basically display weakness and ignorance. And he's just basically saying this doesn't hold up under logical scrutiny. And he goes on to say all that is implied by his promise and threat is not at all difficult for his power to fulfill. It is extremely simple and easy. So again, he's just reiterating this idea that his all-powerful nature, his ability to bring us back, to resurrect us, is unending. And it's not only does it exist, but that power comes easy to him because of his nature. And then he goes on to say in this next sentence, which I have in boldface because I found this sentence very interesting. It is as easy for him as bringing back next spring the countless beings of last spring, in part identically, in part in simile. So here we're returning to this theme of resurrection. Not only does springtime come every year with all of its countless beings, but this is all very easy for him. It's unfathomable to us, but we're weak human beings. To our Creator, this is just easy. This is what he does. And what I found interesting in this sentence is contained in these final words, in part identically, in part in simile. And if we scroll down and look at the content of those two footnotes, and I'll explain how I read these footnotes and what they're meant to mean, but anybody, and Brother Ali, please chime in. Bringing back next spring the countless beings of last spring, in part identically. In footnote number 1, he explains that what he means brings some of these beings back identically, like trees and the roots of grasses. Others he brings back in simile, and he says in footnote 2, like leaves and fruits. The way I read this portion of the text is, if you think about nature, every winter, everything seems to shrivel up and go and die temporarily. However, there are varying degrees in which this happens. So trees, for example, don't shrivel up and disappear. They're still there. They change for sure. They look very different, but they come back. The roots of grasses are similar. They don't disappear. Now, the grass certainly looks different. The grass loses its green, fresh color. It loses that nice, moist texture that grass has, but its roots don't go anywhere. The roots of the grass throughout the wintertime are still present in the soil. So trees and grass roots don't go away. They change, they look different, but they go into hibernation, so to speak. So when they come back in the spring, they are more or less the same that they were the previous season, notwithstanding the subtle changes that happen in all living beings from one year to the next. They come back as they were. But with leaves and fruits, and I would add flowers to that list, leaves and fruits do come back fresh, completely new, because leaves shrivel up and they fall off the trees and they rot over the winter before the next spring. And fruits do the same. Fruits dry up, they get eaten by birds or animals or human beings, they fall off the trees, they rot. So when they come back the following spring, the leaves and the fruits are similes of the ones that existed the prior year. I found that distinction very, very subtle and very interesting. Wants to chime in on that? Anybody have any additional thoughts about that? Brother Ali, do you believe I've interpreted that text as the author intended?
Yes, thank you for the presentation and starting off the discussion. It is excellent. In addition to what you said, the last 3 lines of the paragraph we under discussion, which starts with, for him to break his promise would be contrary to the dignity of his power. Now, I understand the word his promise is important as well. Of course, you presented that the creation witnesses that he can, the one who created this universe, can easily, definitely and easily bring the creation again, creation of or recreation of human bodies again. That is a witness. And at the same time, the creating the universe in this way is also to be taken as a promise from him. Why does he create and takes the life of the beings and recreates again every year, every season? This act of uh, creation, as the author says, it can be taken as a promise to show, to demonstrate to the human beings that he is going to recreate their body as well. That word, the promise, attracted my attention. So as his power demonstrates that he can do it, and because of this kind of creation, he is not expected to break his promise as well, since he can do it. He demonstrated, and we have seen it with our eyes, experienced the way he creates. He can also recreate human beings, because there is no reason for him to break his promise. Of course, there is another addition to it, this promise that human feelings expect the resurrection. It will be studied further, I think, in the following sections, that those people who pay attention to the meaning of the creation, they also assure that they understand and assure that the resurrection is going to be definitely happen. And also prophets come with this news as well, with the evidence in their hand, the miracles and the message and the connection between human feelings and the witnessing of the universe and the content of message all collaborate together and harmoniously declare that the creator of the universe definitely will keep his promise, must keep his promise. As far as we are concerned, we can conclude this. He must keep his promise. Otherwise, we cannot really deny that he cannot do it. He is the one who breaks his promise. There is no sign for it. He always keeps his promise, and he will keep this promise as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I found a setting that I adjusted. Can you hear me a little bit better now? So we see the signs and the evidence of this promise every spring when he brings back all of these countless beings from the previous season, in part as we saw them the previous season, like trees and roots, in part in simile, like leaves and fruits or flower blossoms. And again, I really like that word simile. It's from the Latin similis, which means similar or like. And a simile is basically a figure of speech that compares two unlike things. For example, my love is like a rose, or you might hear someone say sometimes, my job managing project work is like being the conductor of an orchestra. So when leaves and fruits or flower blossoms come back the next year, they're similes of what existed the prior year, rather than the dead peach from last August springing back to life. They come back in simile. And this next phrase, I think, touches on some of what Brother Ali was just sharing with us. It is our need, the need of everything, his own need, and the need of his dominical sovereignty, that he should fulfill his promise. So his fulfilling this promise is an absolute necessity. We need it. Everything that exists in this created world needs it. And I found it interesting that he says it's also God's own need and the need of his dominical sovereignty, that he should fulfill his promise. So it's as if there's this primordial need that exists at all levels of existence for this promise to be fulfilled. For him to break his promise would be contrary to the dignity of his power, and it would contradict the comprehensiveness of his knowledge. For the breaking of a promise can arise only from ignorance or impotence. So the breaking of this promise is more than just the way we human beings sometimes in our failings, we break a promise to somebody. But in the case of the Creator breaking his promise, this not only does it deny the reason behind our universe, but for him to break his promise would be utterly contrary to his dignity, his power, and his all-knowing nature. For the breaking of a promise can arise only from ignorance or impotence, and our Creator is anything but ignorant or impotent. In fact, it's us human beings who tend to be ignorant and impotent and do things like break our promises. Anybody have anything to add before we jump into the next paragraph? So the next paragraph starts, "O denier, do you know how foolish a crime you are committing with your unbelief and denial?" So he's addressing us, deniers, doubters. Do you know how foolish a crime you are committing with your unbelief and denial? Paying heed to your own lying fancy, your delirious intellect, your deceptive soul, you reject as a liar one who in no way can be compelled to the breaking of his promise, whose glory and stature can in no way admit the breaking of his word, and whose truthfulness and veracity are attested by all visible matters and objects. So he really specifically calls out some of the feeble qualities of our nature here when we're doubting and denying, no, he's not an all-powerful creator. The world is just a natural thing that just evolved and happened on its own by chance, by hazard. There's no planning behind it. It just is. And I'm just going to go about my business in it. He says that this is paying heed to our own lying fancy. We lie to ourselves. We tell ourselves stories all the time. Our delirious intellect. I especially enjoyed that expression. We think we're so smart. We think we're so intelligent. We're delirious with ourselves sometimes. Your deceptive soul, you reject as a liar one who in no way can be compelled to the breaking of his promise. Again, we human beings, because we're weak and we lie to ourselves and we're deluded, we break our promises. But our Creator in no way can be compelled to break his promises. He's far, far above that plane where we exist. His glory and stature can in no way admit the breaking of his word, and whose truthfulness and veracity are attested by all visible matters and objects. Again, it's this theme of just look around us. The world around us is full of signs of his promise and his ongoing fulfilling of that promise, even in something that seems as normal and mundane to us as the changing of the seasons. Well, it's just natural, right? That every spring things come back to life. That's actually a miracle. That's really a profoundly amazing event. That coming out of the winter into the spring, we see the natural world come back to life. We see things green up again. We see the things that never really went away, like trees and roots. They wake up and they produce new leaves and new fruit. The grass turns green again and starts growing again after being dormant for months. This is all evidence. These are all signs of recreation, of resurrection that we will also enjoy one day when we leave this world. So in our doubting and in our denying, despite infinite pettiness, you are committing a crime of infinitely great proportions. So despite our smallness, we have to be mindful that we are nonetheless capable of committing great crimes. And we do this through our actions, but we also do it through our beliefs and through our speech. When we deny things to ourselves, but especially if we argue with others and try to persuade or convince others now that none of that stuff is true. This is all just natural and by chance. You don't need to worry about upholding your beliefs, your moral standards, whatever it is. We're teetering on the brink of committing a crime of infinitely great proportions when we step into that world of doubting and disbelief, especially if we share those thoughts with others. Without doubt, you deserve great and eternal punishment. Again, there's this idea of accountability. We'll be held accountable for our actions. We may not feel that on a daily basis while we're living here in this world, but we will face accountability one day. Just because we're small little creatures today does not mean that that our actions and behaviors are not being recorded, or that we won't be called to answer for them one day. I found this next sentence interesting, and I'll definitely want some input from others about what this sentence means. According to certain narrations, the fact that the teeth of some of the people of hell will be as big as a mountain will serve as an indication of the magnitude of their crime. So again, here, this theme of being held accountable for the crimes of disbelief and doubting. And the footnote here, with this strange reference to the word teeth, footnote here, he references several hadith citations, but someone, perhaps Brother Ali, could you help me understand what he's talking about in this sentence? The teeth of some of the people of hell being as big as a mountain.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes.
From my understanding, what I was taught was hell is going to be filled with women, but specifically women and people who are there because of their tongues. But to me, I think the teeth part is relating to, the tongue part, meaning people are there because of the things they have said to hurt other people. And the second part to that would also be because God can forgive us for every sin except shirk, which is when you associate partners with God, like God had a son and XYZ. But there are certain sins where only people can forgive us. Like if you wronged somebody, you said something to them or about them or whatever, only they can forgive you. So, your ticket to heaven could be gone because, you wronged someone. To me, the teeth thing is probably related to like, when people like when people wrong people with their mouths, with their tongues. So I think that's what it is. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah.
Brother Ali has his hand up as well. What do you have to say about this phrase?
Yeah, in addition to what Sarah said, we may think that a person who denies God, I mean, okay, just a small crime, just he didn't believe in God, but he may be a good man as well. So why is he punished according to the news or the message that we receive from the Quran or the message from God through the prophets? They will be punished eternally. Oh man, it is too much, isn't it? It sounds so. A small, very simple example came to my mind, and I said it may be a good idea to share this example. If a person strikes the match or uses it as lighter and starts a fire in the forest, what happens? The whole forest is destroyed, burned out. Now, if he is taken to the court and the judge asks him, what did you do? The big crime. He said, no, I haven't done anything. I just struck one match. That's it. That's what I did. Do you think the judge will forgive this man? Do you think this person is innocent in his action? Now, I feel that this simple example represents the attitude of an unbeliever whose teeth is going to be as big as the mountain. This is the figure of speech that the prophet usually describes the theory, how do you say it? Not the material things, but there was a word for it, I couldn't remember that. Abstract notions, for example, huge crime. How can you describe the huge crime? Of course, he speaks with an analogy saying that, for example, if a criminal has a tooth as big as a mountain, what do you think he can do? He can really bite huge things easily. And that is the way the prophet teaches the abstract notions to the people so that everybody can understand it. As Sarah said, the tongue of a person who is really gossiping or blaming other people, insulting other people, will be so big. It means the result of this seemingly small actions will be really huge. For example, if I say, I hope not, in reality, there's no God at all. What does it mean? All the witnessings of the creatures, beings in the universe is under attack now, insult. This person is saying they are not telling the truth. They are telling a lie. There is no creator at all, but all the qualities manifested in them is nothing but natural happenings. It means one word, which is there is no God, there is no creator, is a way of insulting the whole beings in the universe altogether. That is why the result of the crime is so huge. And it is beautifully described in this simple example that the Hadith narration describes, that the denier's teeth will be as big as mountains. It means the result is huge. So we have to watch out for our words, and we have to know that a denial is not a simple act like striking a match and just starting the fire in a forest. It is not a simple act. We have to watch out.
Thank you, both of you, Sarah and Ali. That was very helpful. It is indeed a powerful analogy. We may be petty little creatures with our little teeth and little tongues that don't seem like much, but we have the potential to create immense damage when we misuse our small little selves and our component parts in this way. He goes on to say, "Oh, denier, you are like a traveler who closes his eyes to the sunlight and looks instead at the fantasy in his own mind." So again, this idea that we tend to delude ourselves, we lie to ourselves, closing our eyes to something like the sunlight, which is all present and all illuminating. And in our foolishness, we shut our eyes instead and look for guidance in what we make up inside of our own heads. I really love this next phrase, which is why I put it in boldface. His imagination wishes to illumine the awesome path in front of him with the light proceeding from his mind's lamp, that in reality is no stronger than a glowworm. I don't know if you've ever seen a glowworm. Typically, you see them out in the countryside. I've seen them before hiking in the woods at dusk. And they're pretty awesome when you come across a few dozen of them, these larvae that are just hatched. And they're tiny. They're not even an inch long, at least the ones I've seen. And they're little skinny, little worm-like creatures. And they are naturally phosphorescent, so they glow in the dark with this strange kind of glowing greenish color. But they're tiny, they're very small, and they don't glow like lamps. It's very subtle. And they certainly cannot illuminate anything. You could never fill up a glass of glowworms and use it as a flashlight, for example. So I love these analogies with the natural world that he uses in this case. The idea that when we close our eyes to the sunlight and look instead in our own minds, wishing to illumine the awesome path in front of us with the light proceeding from the mind's lamp, that in reality is no stronger than a worm. So basically, instead of opening our eyes to the sunlight, which is all present, all illuminating, we're going to shut our eyes instead and turn to a source of so-called light that in reality is as weak as a glowworm when it comes to lighting the path before us. And then in closing, he says, whatever has been promised by God Almighty, whose beings we see, and whose truthful, eloquent signs are the processes of nature, he will of a surety fulfill. He will establish a supreme, bestow an ultimate bliss. So he concludes this eighth truth by summarizing whatever has been promised by God Almighty. whose gracious words are these beings we see, and whose truthful, eloquent signs are the processes of nature. He will of a surety fulfill. So again, this natural world is full of signs of our Creator. His words are these beings we see. And the processes of nature are, in fact, these truthful, eloquent signs that show us every day in this world what He is going to fulfill one day for us. And then in the final sentence, He will establish tribunal and bestow an ultimate bliss. Again, this idea, tribunal, justice, accountability. We want to be very careful that we're not stumbling through life with our eyes closed and relying on our own weak little glowwormish intellect alone, powerful as it is. We need to see the greater light that is around us and understand that these natural processes around us are not accidental. They're not random. This is all part of a great divine plan, and we have a role in it, and we have to be responsible in that role. So comments, who wants to chime in?
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes,
Thank you, Amy. I really enjoyed your moderation today.
thank you.
I wanted to, we were having another Quran halakha this week, and I wanted to ask about something in relationship to, I'm sorry, you hear my little one here, that you touched upon. So He has said, be to all of these creatures, and they're not here, so they're here, everything is here very intentionally, and it's an ayah, so that means that it's speaking to us and bringing us a message, something to read in it that teaches us about Him. And we had come across another ayah in the Quran of Shaitan refuses to prostrate, as he was told to do to the creation of the human being, which was formed with his hands. I wanted to ask, are we the only creation that has been formed so intricately with his hands? It's like, if the difference is that for all of existence is the command kun fayakun, but for our existence, what is the meaning of this different, that it was formed with his hands? That we were formed by his hands specially.
Brother Ali, would you like to address the Shahrani family's question?
Can you please, I couldn't catch the question. Are we the only creatures, human beings, as compared to what? I couldn't catch that one. I was unable to understand that question. If you just...
Yes. We were thinking about how everything is so intentionally here that it was said to be, whereas there could have been an infinite other possibilities that he could have brought into existence. But he chose everything that's here, from the glowworm to us, to be here with his kun fayakun, with his be and it is. And then in another ayah of the Quran, we learn that he has molded human beings, especially with his hands. And so I'm relating it also to the responsibility that Sister Amy was talking about in our creation, and that we are sensing meaning in everything else that he has brought to existence. We sense it as an ayah, as something that's bringing a message. So I'm wondering if you could help me understand the meaning of human beings being created specially with his hands. I'm referring to an ayah in which Shaitan doesn't prostrate, and then Allah says that he has created human beings, molded us specially with his hands, whereas the rest of creation has been told be and it is.
Yes, Brother Ali, you have your hand up.
In order to understand the Quran, we have to bear some principles in mind. One is Quran is the speech of the creator of everything to human beings. This is for human beings. It means as far as human capacity is concerned, and as far as human responsibility is concerned, Quran gives the guidance to human beings. But within their speaking within human capacity and for the purpose of helping human beings to fulfill their purpose of existence. Now, when we look at the Quran, we have to understand that God is specifically mentioning that I have created you, all human beings, with my own hand. What does it mean? I think the essence of the question is this, as compared to creating everything as a result of be and it is. It means as a result of his will, and they happen or they exist as a result of his will. And human beings, yes, human beings exist also as a result of his will. There is no difference. But Quran speaks to human being and says, look, watch out all humankind. Watch out. You have something special. I have given you something special than the others. But how did he give it? Directly from his hand. What does it mean? When you say, I have made it with my hand, it means I have not used any other means. Directly as I want, I created you as a masterpiece among the creatures with a quality which is unique to human beings. Unique to human beings. Which is that? What is that? Spirit, human spirit. It means human emotions, human feelings, human intellect, human understanding of the purpose of creation, using their all sorts of feelings, endless kinds of feelings, in order to communicate with their creator through the creation. But also, human beings are given free will. That's why we need to be educated. We need to be trained in this world, how to utilize our special qualities created by God directly without letting any kind of causal chain in the eyes of the people. We have to be careful here. The causal chain is in our perception, but the way the things come into existence does not have any cause other than the will of the creator, because the cause means the thing which causes something else to exist. but the universes, the order of the universe seems to be following a causal chain, which we call it, there is a reason, a cause, and the result is out there. But this cause is in our eyes. If we really examine what we call as cause, is not really a cause to create something, just an order, the way the things come into existence. It means the way the things are created follows a certain pattern. This pattern is called cause and effect by human beings. In order to communicate with the universe, what we do, we use our previous experience of the universe, how it is coming into existence. So we learn how something, if I do something, a certain result is expected to be created. But we know that the causes have no quality to give existence to anything else. This is our perception. So, specifically mentioning that human beings are created directly by God's hand, it means not explainable within the cause and effect relationship in our eyes. It means human spirit has no cause in the eye of the people that, when something happens, as a result, it comes, the effect comes in existence. For example, when the clouds gets heavy and the drops of the rain start falling. Now, that is how we see it. For example, we know that when there is no cloud, there is no rain. So according to me, the presence of the clouds seem to be the cause of the rain, according to my perception. But if I examine the cloud, I see that it doesn't have free will. It doesn't have any power, knowledge, anything that it can be the source of existence of the raindrops. I understand that this is the way the Creator creates. So in my eye, if there is no cloud, there is no rain. That is how the Creator organized the order of the universe and taught us how to behave in our relationship with the universe. Now, for the creation of the spirit, there is no such apparent cause directly created by God. That's why the Quran says, in the Quran, our Creator draws our attention that when you look at the creation of your feelings, your emotions, your spirit, your soul, you will not see any cause. It means I directly created you. You can be aware of it, that always through your feelings, God directly communicates with you. So you are expected to respond back directly to God without diverting your understanding through or to the causes, saying that because of this, I have the spirit. You cannot do that. That is a way of speech of the Quran in order to teach human beings how to utilize their existence or the existence of the universe. Otherwise, my spirit is the result of the will of God, be and it is. My body is the result of the will of God, be and it is. Everything is directly given existence by God. There is no difference in the way the things are coming into existence, or the things are sent into existence. But in order to teach human beings, God is drawing the importance of the element that is put in human beings, which is soul, which makes human beings somehow distinguished from the other creatures. That is the way of teaching how important the human beings are. Because the Quran is speech of God to human beings. So we have to understand that in the way the things are created is not different. Everything in other verses of the Quran clearly stated that whatever God wills, it happens. With no other reason, with no other means to be employed. But the order of the universe is arranged in such a way that teaches me how to communicate with the Creator. If, for example, if I want to have, let's say, eggplants, what I have to do, I learn from the way the things are created. I have to put the seed and let the shoot come out and then plant it in a land, plant the shoot in a land and then water it, and eggplants are created for me. You see that he is teaching me. Otherwise, the Creator doesn't need a seed in order to create the eggplants. But I need to follow the order in order to present what I want from God to create for me. I hope it makes it clear. So these expressions are educational expressions in the Quran, not to be confused that the nature of creation is different. Nature of creation is nothing but the fulfillment of the will of the Creator. I hope it helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We only have a couple of minutes left. Does anyone else have a question or a comment or an observation before we close? Well, if not, Brother Ali, do you have any final comments? And would you then like to recite the closing prayer for us?
I would like to ask Shahrani family whether the question is somehow answered, or does she have any further questions?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it was definitely answered in a way that brought me more learning and guidance. And now I'm still, so I see that my own creation is like this proof to myself that God can create even without seeming causes. Like if he just, like you said, he doesn't actually need the seed and the soil and the water and the sunlight to make the eggplant. He can just make the eggplant be. The reason I can believe that is because he just made my ruh be. He just made my spirit be. I'm still trying to understand what the value is. What the value is for me in observing the order that I see out there in the universe. Of course, I have lived a life in which I have come to say, most of my life, I was thinking that the order was explaining the existence of everything. But then now I see, wow, actually you know, through so many different ayah and signs, in my own creation and in the Quran, no, that order isn't necessary. So I'm wondering, like, has this order been willed into existence to teach me this lesson, or what else am I supposed to be learning from this order that I observe? Is it just to teach me the lesson that it's not necessary to even have this order? Is it a test? Is it a what am I supposed to, I guess, yeah, what's the full lesson that I'm learning from the existence of order?
Exactly. The creator is the one who created the soil, is the one who creates the water and the seed and the DNA structure of the seed, all need to be given existence by a one who can create the whole universe. If someone cannot create the universe, cannot create the DNA in the cell of the seed of an eggplant, because they are directly interconnected with each other. So he doesn't need, because he is the creator of it. But the one who created the seed must be the creator of the universe. The one who created the water molecules must be the creator of the universe again. Now, the benefit of order, think about it. We are created in such a way that for human beings, because we can speak only on behalf of ourselves. For human beings, if there was no order, everything, let's assume that everything is created in a chaotic way. How can I take my present day conditions of existence as I am right now? How can I know that this act of creation, this universe, is the result of a perfect knowledge, perfect power, perfect will, perfect wisdom, perfect mercy? Everything is chaotic, meaningless. How am I going to respond back to the creator of the universe? I wouldn't know that this chaotic existence is the result of an absolute power and knowledge. I wouldn't know, because there would be no order, there would be no observable purpose in the creation. And as I am now, I cannot make sense of any meaning of this existence. So the way I am created perfectly fits the way the universe is created now. I can easily say, by looking and observing of the existence of anything in the universe, I can easily conclude that this is a very deliberate act of a conscious being who knows what he's doing, who is able to do whatever he wills in the perfect way. This is a training. The universe is a training center for me as far as I am concerned. In the training center, if the teacher does things without an order, can I learn anything? Is it possible that I will be trained in this world and prepared for something else? Myself, I would say, this is a jumble of things. What shall I do with them? Just leave the classroom. Meaningless. We have to take two parts at the same time and see the compatibility between the way the universe is created and the way the human beings are created, and they are given endowed with the qualities so that human beings can communicate through the universe in order to get to know who the creator of the universe is, therefore who the creator of his human beings' own creator, the same creator. Creator is Rab. One of the meaning of Rab is educator. One of the meaning of Rab is educator. Makes trains people, prepares people like you. I understand that there are children around you. You are the Rab of the children, if you like, as far as your mission as a mother is concerned. You are educating tarbiyah. You are educating your children to prepare them for the life. God is educating us to prepare us for the eternal life to come. So it must be appropriate to the universe must be created in appropriate to the needs of the human beings in order to fulfill the purpose of their existence. That is why it is essential for me that the universe must be created within an order so that I can make sense of it, use it, and respond back to the creator of the universe and communicate, establish the relationship between me and him. So he is my Lord. I am his worshiper, student. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was extremely helpful. It's 5 past the hour now, so I will stop sharing my screen. And if no one else has a question or an observation, Brother Ali, would you like to recite the closing prayer for us?
Thank you. Thank you. It was great, mashallah. Thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. بحرمة سر سورة الفاتحة. Thank you. Inshallah, I'll see you on Monday, Wednesday.